This is DG Vision Network.
We plan to finance the deficit mainly by new borrowings totaling 5.01 trillion naira, 90.73 billion naira for privatization proceeds and 1.16 trillion naira drawdowns on loans secured for social development projects. Some have expressed concern over our resort to borrowing to finance our fiscal gaps. They are right to be concerned. However, we believe that the debt level of the federal government is still within sustainable limits. Borrowing at specific strategic projects and can be verified publicly. As we are aware, we have witnessed 2 economic recessions within the period of this administration. In both cases, we had to spend our way out of recession, which necessitated a resort to growing the public debt. It is unlikely that our recovery from each of the 2 recessions would have grown as fast without the sustained government expenditure funded by debt. Members of the National Assembly, the 2022 and 2024 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper set out the parameters for the 2022 budget as follows: A, conservative oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel. B, daily oil production estimate of 1.88 million barrels, including condensates of 300,000 to 400,000 barrels per day. C, exchange rate of 410 naira and 10 naira 15 kobo per United States dollar, and D, projected GDP growth rate of 4.2% and 13% inflation rate. A total expenditure of 16.39 trillion naira is proposed for the federal government in 2022. The proposed expenditure comprises A, statutory transfers of 768.28 billion naira, B, non-debt recurrent costs of 6.8 trillion naira, and C, personnel costs of 4.1 trillion naira. D, pensions, gratuities, and retirees' benefits of 577 billion naira. E, overheads of 792.39 billion naira, and F, capital expenditure of 5.35 trillion naira, including the capital component of statutory transfers. G, debt service of 3.61 trillion naira, and H, sinking fund of 290.71 billion naira to retire certain maturing bonds.
Your Excellency, generating and collecting revenues have remained major challenges in our quest for development. The recent efforts by the National Assembly, as well as the Executive, to challenge the revenue-generating agencies is a step in the right direction. Equally important is the recent position taken by the legislature and the executive arms of government to insist on zero allocation to MDS that failed to remit their revenues for the 2022 appropriation. This saw an increase in the contribution of MDS by over 400 billion. It is my view that MDS can contribute to the Federation account much more than that. This policy should be expanded and deepened to cover more MDS. Mr. President, the need to enhance revenue generation and collection cannot be overemphasized. The level of budget deficit is high, and both the legislature and the executive should work to reduce this deficit through the availability of more revenues. You will be laying the 2022 appropriation bill. Mr. President, I commend you for maintaining this trajectory of presenting the annual budget estimates before the joint sitting of the National Assembly in good time to enable the Assembly work on the bill. Mr. President, members of the 9th National Assembly have kept their promise of passing the annual appropriation bill before the end of the year to ensure that the bill is signed into law before the beginning of the new year. The 2020 and 2021 appropriation bills were considered and passed before the end of each year. The distinguished and honored members of the National Assembly remain committed to working on the 2022 appropriation bill and pass it before the end of this year. Mr. President, the Nigerian economy and indeed our citizens are benefiting from the early passage and assent to the 2020 and 2021 appropriation bills now acts. 2022 budget should target at completion and consolidation of the projects already started.
Over the past year, the House has passed several important resolutions relating to healthcare access, primary education, rural infrastructure deficits, and national security that require actual funding. Where these restrictions have not been included in the appropriation bill, the House will work with the Senate and the Executive to see that the final version of this appropriation bill includes necessary allocations to implement these resolutions and give full effect to the best wishes of the House.
This is DG Vision Network.